Today's demonstration is going to demonstrate the integration between Magazine Manager and the Newspaper Manager with QuickBooks Online. First, I'll just take a example for a new client that I've added to the database. At that point, I will go ahead and pull up the report that we have where we can send all our information over to QuickBooks. So we can send over customer information, we can send over invoice information, and we can send over our payments. So we'll take each step at a time and I'll show you how that works. After that's done, I will quickly show you a little bit of the back-end stuff, how can we set this up. We have already completed the setup that needs to be done before that, so what I'm showing you here right now is going to be our use of the Send Data to QuickBooks report. The first thing that happens on this report in here is going to be that we have to get a session key. A session key is how we allow a secure connection with the QuickBooks. This session key here expires after 24 hours or at midnight every night, and so you would have to just recall this every day. We have different types of information that we can pull over to QuickBooks. The first item here is going to be customer information. We also have invoice information and payment information. So in this case here, Pandora is a brand new client. They are not in QuickBooks yet, and so we want to make sure we can pull that information over there. So I'm going to go ahead and click search, and now I can see on this report here that this is listing 3 clients that I don't currently have in QuickBooks. So in this case here, I'm just going to go ahead and select the Pandora radio, and then I'm going to go ahead and select the records to QuickBooks. Basically what we're doing right now, we're pushing the information from Magazine Manager and into, if you will, cyberspace. And then this is going to say that a request has been queued. We're going to click OK, and then we have a little button here that's now going to process the request. This is actually what will push the information over to QuickBooks. So that has now been processed, and we can go ahead and click Done. We can now switch over to QuickBooks. I can look up Pandora, and there it is, Pandora Radio. We can see all the information is listed here. If we click on Show Detail, we can see all the same information as we have under the contact in Magazine Manager. So that brings another important item here, because if we were to change any of the items in here, that will actually update next time we send information over to QuickBooks. So let me just go ahead and do that. We'll just go ahead and put in here Pandora Radio, and we'll just go ahead and put tests in here, and we'll save that information. So now we'll see that next time we send information over to QuickBooks, the Pandora Radio should also include test. I'm going to go back to my Send Data to QuickBooks report. And in this case here, I'm going to pull up the invoice information. So I'm going to pull up the invoice information, and here we can see that Pandora Radio have 3 different invoices or 3 different line items that were sent over. And so I'm going to select them all, and I want to select the records to QuickBooks. Okay, again, it says that it's been processed, and now we just have to send the information to QuickBooks by clicking on the Process Request button here. And now we'll see that it's processing these requests. So depending on your internet connection, this could take a minute, and of course also depending on how many you're sending over at once. Go ahead and click Done. I'll jump back over to QuickBooks, and let me just go ahead and refresh the page here. We can now see the name of the client has been updated, and we also see now at the bottom that we have the invoices that actually come over. So let me go ahead and double click on that, so you can see what the actual invoice here will look like. We can see all the information that's listed here, even the test has also come over. We can see the invoice date, invoice number. This is the Magazine Manager invoice number that's listed here. And then at the bottom here we have the travel information, or travel, I should say this is the product, the travel photography. We can see what issue this particular one is for, and also the size. And then of course the amount. So that's the information that's listed here when we send it over to QuickBooks. Let's go back to the Pandora Radio here. All right, and we'll jump back over to Magazine Manager. So at this point we want to send over the payment information as well. And here we'll see there's a couple of other clients that needs to be sent over. We're just going to go ahead and select all, and we're going to go ahead and select the records to QuickBooks. Again, it just takes a minute here to process this request. And then we're going to go ahead and click the push button there, or process the request, and that shouldn't take long at all. So as soon as this is done, we can now come back into QuickBooks again, and then we'll actually be able to view the payments that's been sent over to QuickBooks. So again, I need to refresh my page in QuickBooks since everything is online, and we can now see the balance is 0. If I come to the bottom here, I can click, right now it says open transactions, make sure we click all transactions, and now we can see all of them here. So let's go ahead and double click on one of the payments so we can see what information comes over. Again, we have the customer name, we have the date, the amount, and what the payment method was. And we also have a reference number. This is a reference number that we have in Magazine Manager for the payments. So 2013 payment 2576, and below that we also have in the memo field what invoice was this actually applied to. So you always have these references available to you in QuickBooks after it's been sent over. So that's everything as far as how the process works. So the next thing here I want to talk about for a few minutes is going to be, how do we actually set this up? The information that we can map in Magazine Manager is going to be your chart of accounts, in particular your income accounts. All these income accounts is what we can map to individual products and rate cards in Magazine Manager. So that's from your chart of accounts. If you use classes, those can also be mapped. Typically you would have your class list here that would be listed at the bottom. In this case here we don't have this on this particular version of QuickBooks, but that can be mapped as well. And then we will also just verify that the payment method list is set up in according to how we have it in Magazine Manager. In Magazine Manager, we now have an option to actually map this information. So we have a option here where it says link accounts. In here we can then come in and we can actually select each one of our products. And each one of our products we then select, we can then map to the income accounts that we have listed in QuickBooks. In this case here, I'm going to click on that, and now we can see all the income accounts that I have available to me, and now it's just a matter of selecting the right one. So each one of the blue bars that goes across here displays, in this case, if you were to create a miscellaneous charge in Magazine Manager, what income account do I want that to go to? We have different rate cards. That's each one of the rate cards that's listed in a blue line. 1-year rates. We have our travel photography rate card. So we can see each one of these are mapped. Each one of these items you see here is actually your surcharges and discounts. Each one of these can also be mapped to an individual income account. For instance, your barter account. Some people do have their own barter account, and that can be mapped just by choosing it here. And then that barter income will be sent over. If you are using classes, that can be mapped right here, and you'll be able to select that in the drop down. We have our accounts receivable and also a class posting for the QuickBooks. Once that's done, we simply come to the bottom and click Save, and that will be saved. The next item I want to show you is going to be how can we actually map information that we already have in QuickBooks. So I'm going to go back to my Send Data to QuickBooks report here. I'm going to go ahead and click Search, and I'm going to show you these two clients, BMW, Carnival Ride, are examples of what we already have in QuickBooks. Let me quickly go back over to our customers here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on BMW. And BMW, we'll see here, actually already have something in here for BMW, and that's what we already have posted here. So we do want to make sure that we actually link this account to what we have in Magazine Manager, but currently they're not linked. So the way we do that, again, is done in Magazine Manager. On this particular page here, first we go ahead and we request the information from QuickBooks. So we actually request all your client information. And once that's done, we can go ahead and click on Link Customers. Within Link Customers, we can then map by the advertiser's name, and we can simply choose how many characters do we want to search by, and then we can click Search. Once we click Search, it searches the entire database from what we just requested from QuickBooks to what we have in Magazine Manager. And in Magazine Manager, what we see listed here is going to see BMW. It gives us all the information we have. What we see in this drop-down is going to be what we have in QuickBooks. So we just want to make sure that this is mapped correctly. And then we can apply it, or we can go through. We can see Carnival Ride here. This is what I have in Magazine Manager. What do I have in QuickBooks? So we can see in QuickBooks I have a couple items here that looks very similar. So I just have to go through here and make sure I find the right one and then map it. At that point I can simply click Apply All, and then it will tell you if the operation here was completed successful. In this case it was. Click OK, and now there's anything here anymore to select. At that point, if I go back into my Send Data to QuickBooks, I'll go ahead and click Search again, and now we can see those two customers are now disappeared from this report. At that point, I'm actually ready to send over invoice information. So now I click on it, and I can see all the invoices that's ready to be sent over. I can just simply click Select All, select the records to QuickBooks, And again, that's going to process the request here from Magazine Manager to get it ready to be sent over to QuickBooks. I click OK and click the process request key here, and it will pop up here, and it tells me then what is the progress. And then as it comes over, we'll then be able to log into QuickBooks and see how that process works. Of course, once we're done here, if we have taken payments for these clients, I can then go ahead and process the payments as well. So we'll just give this 1 second here, and then we'll just verify that the information has come over to QuickBooks. So that is just almost complete here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and just refresh our page. And now we can see BMW now have additional transactions that's listed here. And here are the open transactions that we just sent over. So that concludes the tutorial for today. Please contact your software consultant if you have any questions on any of the items that you saw today, and we'll also be happy to help you get this set up for you.